So, you want to write a book? Let me tell you this. I've been now writing for 10 years, and my books are today published in China, Finland, Korea, Japan, Lithuania, Saudi Arabia, Serbia, Sweden, Russia, Taiwan, Turkey, UK, Ukraine, and soon India, to mention some of the places. And I've written 5 books or 5 life projects, as I sometimes tend to call them, because that's what writing a book is. And it's not easy, but it is possible, obviously, and that's the only thing that matter. In this video, I'm gonna give you 10 steps, 10 things you need to learn, to know, to keep in mind throughout the process to be able to publish your own book. And if you follow these 10 steps, your chances of actually getting your own book done will dramatically increase. Your chances of actually finishing, publishing something that matters go way up. And by the way, I didn't start in ideal circumstances. When I wrote my first book, I had a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I was living in a toxic relationship. But writing became my lifeline. I wrote at night when everyone else was asleep. I wrote during naps. I dotted down ideas whenever I had the chance. I found my ways to actually finalize my first book. I'm also a doctor of psychology, and years of writing, of analyzing behavior, of studying behavior, doing my thesis, conducting research, these things shaped how I think, how I write, and how I read books too. And long before that, I played in a death metal band. Well, you can imagine, I'm sure you can imagine what I looked during those years. And being in the field of music taught me also what it takes to hold attention, how to tell a story, and kind of how to channel emotion or have an artistic eye in those things that I was working with, all of which now lives in my writing. So let's get started. Step number 1 is know your why. What is your real reason for writing this book? Is it to help someone, to heal something, to prove something to yourself or to the world, to your mom, to your dad? What is your reason? You'll need that when the motivation disappears, and it will. Trust me, it will. Because writing a book is a long project, far ahead in time. For example, for my book, The Naked Truth, this is released in Sweden and Japan. So the why behind my book, The Naked Truth, it was heartbreak. I got left for another woman, and we had been married for 14 years. And during this crisis, I just couldn't find a book that was what I needed. So many of the books were aimed at how to heal as a couple, how to move forward, how to forgive, how to find a new way, how to create a new relationship. But that wasn't the case. So I wrote a book that I needed myself. And I thought, if this is a book that seems to be like that's not to be found out there, I mean, there must be so many other people that have been in my situation that would need the book. So I clearly could see a market there. And for that book, it's nonfiction, meaning it's based in fact. This was such a fascinating journey for me to write this book because I kind of braided facts with my own story, scientific results, statistics, well, the things that we know, with my own journey woven together with 2 other persons. I mean, I was the heartbroken, the betrayed one, and my goal was to find 2 persons who were living with infidelity, who were choosing infidelity, and I really wanted to get inside their mind and tell their stories and kind of report and explain what's going on. How does an cheating person, what are their reasons, thoughts, motives? And I managed to step into their shoes. And maybe that was a goal, that was a part of my healing, to understand the cheating party. And I had the privilege of interviewing a man who was cheating in his relationship, in his marriage. And I found a woman, Vera, that chose the cheater's path too. But they had very different circumstances. Well, the man had a somewhat okay relationship with his wife, Vera, who was the unfaithful woman in my book. Her husband was dismissive, he was abusive, he did whatever he could to put her down, and she just couldn't afford leaving this marriage. There are 3 people whose stories you follow in my book: me, the betrayed, Vera, a woman who eventually chose infidelity, And Joar, a man who also crossed that line. Vera had been married for years. He made her feel like she was never enough. She was left alone to handle the kids, the house, the emotional labor of the entire relationship. After 15 years, the painful truth settled in. Nothing was going to change. And then came one particular Saturday night. That moment was the final crack. She made her decision. So that was a book I needed myself and couldn't find. So I wrote it. Step number 2 is to define your reader. Who are you writing for? And the answer is not everyone. We need to be able to picture them, to be specific. Create a picture, draw a picture, get your ChatGPT to create an avatar, and keep that avatar in mind throughout your complete book writing process. Print it out and stick that picture at your desk, at your writing place. So, who are they? What are they Googling at 2 a.m. in the morning? What are they struggling with? And what do you think that they'll need from you? So here we need to think a little bit like a salesperson, because if you write a book that no one's gonna read or no one's gonna buy, I mean, if your book doesn't sell, it won't serve anyone. Not you, not your agent, and not your publisher, and they're not going to want to publish a second book with you. So that's why titles, subtitles, and even chapters do matter. So, for example, in my book, The Naked Truth, I used chapter names that I thought, because in my mind, I saw a potential buyer entering a bookstore, and I know, of course, these books can be ordered online. So I saw before my inner eye that the potential buyer would enter into a bookstore, open my book, and of course, they're going to check out the back cover blurb, but also because I do this, so I thought I'm sure others do it too. So it is to check out the chapter names, because you want to get a picture. What is this book all about? Is this something I want to put my money on? So this is obviously the Swedish version, but some of the chapter names were The Wife versus the Mistress. Another one is Try a New Wife Before Leaving the Old One, and LinkedIn, the dating app. So these chapters were, I had the Vera chapter, then Joar chapter, and then me myself. So the unfaithful party number 1, the unfaithful party number 2, and then myself. And the whole book was kind of rotating these chapters. Some more of these chapter names were Celibacy is not for me. Another one, Good Enough for Sex. Hubby won't quit staring. One chapter, It Meant Nothing. And one more, His Mistress Has a Mister, which is a Joar chapter. So think like a salesperson. And when it comes to the sales part, I've been asked by several persons with book dreams, should I have an agent or should I just try to pursue to get a book published by myself? Like contacting the publishing houses myself, sending an email to all these 15 companies, publishing houses, and asking, like, I have a manuscript that's in the field of this, and this is the title, this is the subtitle. And then they might write back to you and ask for a synopsis, that's a summary. That could be a draft, it could be the first chapter, it could be just a description of your book, it could be also that they want to see the complete manuscript. So there are all these different scenarios. And when it comes to the agent question, I do have an agent, a great agent, really amazing. She doesn't just pitch my ideas to publishing houses. She's so smart when it comes to finding the right angle to kind of polish the original idea that I have and make it even better. So she's also there when it comes to the evolution of my book. She makes each book better. Step number 3, it's about nailing the core message. So if your readers just remember one thing, what should that one thing be? Would you be able to describe your entire book in one sentence? If not, keep refining, because books with a clear message, they stick. And books without one, they get abandoned halfway. And spoiler, your sentence will likely come after this first messy draft. So just write, just keep going. Step 4, build your framework. Now we're talking about the structure, the chapters, the beginning, the end, and And I write nonfiction, even though this book again was kind of a mix between fiction and nonfiction. I really wanted to create something new, something different, where the reader, even though they want the facts, they're gonna get the facts, but by kind of having the excitement, the emotions, they're gonna feel what it is to be in the shoes of myself or Vera or Joar. But writing nonfiction, it means that I'm in the field of facts. I'm describing facts. But in all my books, I've tried to insert storytelling as much as I can because I know that stories will make the reading experience so much more enjoyable. So, where is the beginning of your book? Where's the turning point? And what happens in the end? And then break it into chapters. Break chapters into scenes, and break scenes into moments. A 300-page book sounds overwhelming, but one paragraph, totally doable. Step number 5, your big idea. So, could you describe your book in one sentence? If not, it might not be a book. It might be a blog post or an article. And here's the trick. If your title, if your idea doesn't haunt you, at least a little, it's probably not ready. Also, give your brain some downtime because creativity often hits when your mind's at rest, namely when you're drifting off to sleep, or you've just woken up, or when you're walking around in the woods in nature. And my books, they all started off in different ways. For example, my very first book, The Art of Making an Impression. This is the Swedish copy, and it's also released to Finland. This book got inspired by my metal days and how others evaluate and judge us depending on like irrelevant variables, and also my research from the Department of Psychology, where I investigated how judges, police officers, jury members, how they evaluate and judged suspects in different ways depending on their appearance, on their gender. So it was kind of a synergy effect of my own teenage years when I wore this typical metal uniform myself with Dr. Martens band t-shirt, skinny jeans, had super long hair, and I felt that I got a different response or different treatment from others when I was moving around in this outfit as compared to when I was all fixed up with hair done, high heels, and more business-like attire, or just wearing my comfy home outfit without makeup. And obviously, I could sense that. People saw me in different ways. I mean, we humans, we categorize each other all the time. And first impressions happen in a split second. And that's what that book was all about. And the inspiration came from my own teenage years. The book Your Hidden Motives, this is the Swedish copy. The idea to this book came while I was falling asleep in our summer house. My kids, my mom, I was a single mom at that time. That was after my divorce. And my kids and my mom had fallen asleep, and I was awake. The ideas spun around in my head, and the idea to this book just appeared. And this book is about the hidden forces, the hidden motives that all of us, to a bigger or lesser degree, are steered and affected by when it comes to our choices, our reactions, our how we are in our relationships. So there are 3 motivations that we all share. And that was such a revelation. And of course, I had to write it down. In the middle of the night, I always keep paper and pen next to my bed. And the book 100 Dates. This is the book. This is the English version published with Pan Macmillan Bluebird. And this one is the Swedish copy. And we have also, I don't have all of them here, but some anyway. I think I have one more, or actually 2 more. This is the Finnish copy. And this one is the Taiwanese copy of 100 Dates. The idea of this book is a result from me being left for another woman. So after, in my post-divorce sadness, after that had kind of vanished, I grew curious about meeting people. And after a while, I found myself dating. And one date led to another, and And eventually, I had been on 100 dates, which also became the book title. But I could never have anticipated 100 dates when I began. I live in Sweden, Stockholm, and here in Sweden, we have a kind of funny expression when it comes to the newly divorced people. And it is skild och vild, which means divorced and wild, or perhaps off the leash. It's that phase when you are extraordinarily excited to meet new people. Luckily, most of my days took place during this inspired period. Once you've been a researcher, you will always be one. There were so much things that even the names became statistics. I know it sounds crazy. And we met in bars, in cafes, picnics, for walks. And I've been stood up, I've been ghosted, I've been catfished, ghost busted, breadcrumbed. I met the gravedigger, magician, a priest to be, and dads and youngsters. I had 18 to 100, my age span on my dating apps. And it also happened, effective as I am. I had my 2 children, so I had really, whenever my mom took care of them or they were somewhere, I had to squeeze in, like if I could squeeze in 2 dates within a couple of hours, I would do that. So it happened that I booked dates back to back. So bachelor number 2 arrived before I'd finished saying goodbye to number 1. He sent me a photo of his beer and wrote, "I'm here now." I had to sneak off and part with my date, find a restroom, change my sweater, just try to make it look like as if I was someone else, and return, hoping dearly that he wouldn't realize that I was the one that just a few minutes ago left the place with someone else. Well, actually, my own statistics just augment this book. My advice has been thoroughly grounded in science, research, genuine psychological research, addressing the true basis for attraction. What is chemistry? So all my book projects take research, but this one might really take the cake. And before I conclude, just one more thing I want to mention about this book. I often get the question, so did you find Prince Charming? And the answer is yes, I did, but not during those 100 dates. This project, well, it was all me. It wasn't research, it was me being divorced, being inspired after eventually, and just going out dating and then collecting everything I experienced, everything I saw, my own emotions, my own feelings of rejection, and just making a book out of this. So this project was finished, and I was flying to Copenhagen, from Stockholm to Copenhagen in Denmark for a keynote speaking assignment. And while struggling to lift my very heavy travel bag into the overhead luggage compartment, it was full of books, and I had to ask for some help. And the guy walking right in front of me, entering the plane, I tapped his shoulder and asked if he could help me. And it's been us ever since. And we married a couple of years ago. And no, you shouldn't need to go on 100 dates to find that someone. As the subtitle of this book states, the psychologist that kissed 100 frogs, so you don't have to, because you don't. Here are the tools. So the idea to this one came out of my just for living my life and finding myself single again after many years in marriage. And we already talked about where the idea to this book came from. And my newest book, which is called 10% More Charisma. And the idea to this book came from my fear of public speaking. Today I work as a keynote speaker, but it's more than that. It's about how to become more magnetic in our relationships, in our dates, in our marriages, in just meeting anyone. What are the traits, the variables, the factors that make us truly irresistible? I've dived into all the science about how to become more charismatic. And here's also, when it comes to making the chapters kind of sell your product, which is this book, I wanted to have something really clean, something very well structured. So first of all, the title is 10% More Charisma. This is Swedish, and this book is for now only released in Sweden, but it's a new book. And the chapters are, I like this, it's fun. You see, they are all, except for the introductory chapters and the end chapters, they're all something that starts with 1%. 1% more power, 1% more warmth, 1% more storytelling. Well, I'm just picking out some here. And 1% chapters. adds up to 10% more charisma. One goal here was also to promise something modest, because so many of us believe that we cannot become more charismatic. We are born with whatever charisma level we have, and that's it. But science says it's been proven that we humans can actually get more charismatic just by training, by knowing exactly what factors to get better at, just to add up some behaviors in our everyday behavioral routine. There was this experiment where a group of people were asked to present something, and they were asking people to give something from their personal belongings. Then a couple of weeks later, the same persons doing this speech, they were trained to become more charismatic, and they were asked again to do the same speech, but now in this new developed way, according to the new teachings that they had acquired. And their results increased by 17%. I mean, it was the same person, the same speech, but something was changed. So in this book, I'm letting the reader know exactly what to do to increase their results, increase their dating success, increase their chances of getting that dream job, to sell more, to be a greater partner, because being more charismatic equals being more liked, making people feel better. So being charismatic is truly a win-win concept. So this book kind of sprung out of my own experiences with being less charismatic to becoming more charismatic by learning a few predictable steps. Okay, number 6, you need structure. You don't need a strict outline, but you need structure. You need to know where you are heading. You need a direction. So write a short synopsis. Where's this story going? Add, squeeze in personal stories from people you've heard, from your own life, your own experiences. I usually dot down stories. When I hear a good story, I go, well, that could be something for my next book. And these personal stories, they really make your book so much better. I mean, there are things that we experience that are so unbelievable or just so plain, so they are super relatable. And it doesn't have to be these amazing, extraordinary things that your book is about or tells. There is so much value in the relatable stories. Just having a person, a reader to your book, think, oh, I feel understood. I've also been through this or something similar. So adding stories into nonfiction, that's what I do all the time in all of my books, all of them. And research shows that stories make people remember far more than just facts. Stories create emotion builds memory, and emotion keeps people, your reader, turning pages. And that's what we want them doing. Step number 7, do your research. Even personal books need backup. If you're writing nonfiction, use science, interviews, data. If it's fiction, research your setting, the jobs, the psychology. For my book The Naked Truth, I interviewed real people. I interviewed others that were unfaithful, and their raw honesty made the book real. Step number 8, create a writing habit. Writing is not about waiting for inspiration. That's a myth. If you've ever heard that, nope, not true. It's about showing up. When I started with my first book, I had no private place where to work, where to write. I had a kitchen table and a house full of chaos, and still I wrote. I personally use the program Scrivener, and this is a program where I can jump from chapter to chapter. It's really easy to, whenever I get an idea, when I get the idea, write it first on, if I'm like laying in bed or reading some book or just trying to fall asleep. I first write it down in my notebook, and then I start inserting those ideas into Scrivener, which is my writing program. And I try to aim to put the idea. I might describe it with one word, with one sentence, or a little bit more. And I put it in the right chapter because I have the chapters already early in the writing process outlined. So for example, for this, I had my 1% chapters done. I had the introductory chapter also outlined and the final chapter kind of ready. So I throw ideas into these chapters. Whenever I find something, I throw it in. But any writing tool works. Just find something that you like. Use what fits your mind. Step number 9, it is to Embrace the first draft and revise ruthlessly. Your first draft, it'll be a mess. That's its job. Just get it out. You can't edit a blank page. And then edit with fire. Cut what doesn't serve. Kill your darlings. Read it read it out aloud. And doing this right, doing this ruthlessly, will make your book great. Step number 10 is to know when it's done. You'll always want to tweak something. And I know this is a little bit painful moment in the writing when you know that it's going into print. This manuscript on my computer, it's going into print, and this is the moment I'm writing, and I can't really change anything in 2 days. That's the deadline. Because after that, the script is off. It's no longer in my hands. I've heard this. How was it? Like perfectionism is just procrastination in a fancy outfit. So instead, ask yourself: is it clear? Is it honest? Is it helpful? If yes, it's time. Hit save and let go. And most importantly, put it out into the world. And whether you go traditional, publishing your book with a publishing house, that is, be prepared to send it to a lot of publishing houses. Be prepared to get criticized, to get refused, to get a no after no. A couple of days ago, I had a story about an author that got 28 no's. I mean, giving up at this stage, it would be the easiest choice. But then from the 29th publishing house, he got a yes and did become one of the best-selling authors of this country. So keep that in mind. And I'd advise you to Google different publishing ways to go when publishing your book. One is to go traditional, which means you would have your book published, edited, the cover fixed by the publishing house, but you need to get accepted, which is an extremely selective process. It's like getting through the eye of the needle. Well, you know what I mean. So, the traditional publishing way, this is the classic route. You sign with a publishing house and often through an agent. So there's no upfront costs for you. You'll have professional editing, cover design, distribution, marketing help. That is something that your publishing house will do for you. And the backside, well, it takes longer time, a lot of rejections, long timelines, less creative control, and lower royalties. One option is also to go and self-publish your book, which is you find someone to create the cover, get help with editing your script, and then you contact a printing house, not the publishing house. But you send your cover in one PDF and you send your script, the pages, the text in another. And the final result will arrive to you in like 500 or 1,000 copies. Hope you have a big house. So that is an option too. On the plus side is that you get higher royalties, full creative control, and fast to market, because all this will be in your hands. The backside is that you pay for everything upfront from your own pocket. Editing, cover design, marketing, and there is no guaranteed distribution. And here you are your own publisher, your own marketer, and your own publicist. Okay, well, the third model is the hybrid publishing. And you pay part of the costs upfront, and the publisher helps with production, editing, and sometimes marketing. The good thing is it's quicker to publish, you'll get professional support, and often more royalties than with traditional publishing. On the backside, you're also taking a risk by investing some of your own money by choosing this model, but you'll be able to make more. So what matters is, of course, that your message reaches the ones that need it. So what's the difference between working with an agent as compared to just doing it all by yourself? With an agent, you get access to publishers you often can't reach on your own. Agents pitch your book, negotiate contracts, and protect your rights in exchange for a commission, typically 15 to 30%, depending on whether the deal is domestic or with a foreign publisher. So writing a book is part creativity, it's part discipline, it's resilience, it's having enough toughness to get criticized, to get these no's. But most of all, it's about showing up, one sentence at a time. So I hope that my stories, I hope that my experiences, I hope that you now knowing that I started off with not the optimal setting when starting my career as an author. I hope that that has given you inspiration and ideas to how you can actually do this, which I'm sure that you can, but you really need to do the job. You really need to keep going when it just feels like there's no point. And I really don't think that there is an easy way into doing something kind of big as writing a book. It's a big, long project that's gonna require a lot from you. There is no easy way there, but it is worth it. And you have a story to tell, or you have knowledge that are specific and attractive to others, or that you want to tell somebody else's story in your book. There's endless opportunities. Just find out what your first book's gonna be about, and then let's get started. You can do it if you set your mind to it. So, if this helped or inspired you, hit subscribe and drop me a comment. Let's talk. I'm here for it. Thank you for watching. All the best.